We're diving into 10 more spectacular biblical epics that brought sacred stories to the silver screen during Hollywood's golden age. These films combine star power, groundbreaking effects, and massive budgets to create unforgettable cinema. Cecil B. DeMille's Samson and Delilah set the standard for biblical epics in technicolor splendor. Victor Mature stars as the long-haired strongman who meets his match in Hedy Lamar's seductive Delilah. DeMille, known for his obsession with spectacle, delivers one of cinema's most memorable scenes when Samson pushes apart the temple pillars. For 1949, these special effects were revolutionary, combining miniatures, optical effects, and carefully choreographed stunts. The temple's destruction required months of planning and countless technicians. The film became Paramount's highest-grossing movie up to that time, cementing the biblical epic as box office gold. Critics may have found it melodramatic, but audiences were captivated by the combination of sensuality, religious themes, and DeMille's masterful showmanship. Rita Hayworth's Salome reimagines the biblical tale with lavish Hollywood excess. Director William Dieterle creates a vision of King Herod's court filled with intrigue, opulence, and moral decay. The film's centerpiece, the infamous Dance of the Seven Veils, was choreographed to showcase Hayworth's talents while navigating censorship restrictions. Unlike the biblical account, this Hollywood version presents Salome as sympathetic, dancing not out of malice, but as part of a plot to save John the Baptist.
I will dance for the king, and I will make him free the Baptist.
Charles Laughton's performance as the paranoid, lustful Herod Antipas steals every scene, creating one of cinema's most memorable biblical villains. The film's stunning color palette and elaborate costume design, Salome's dance costume alone reportedly cost $15,000, a fortune in 1953, demonstrate how these biblical epics served as showcases for Hollywood's technical mastery. David and Bathsheba starred Gregory Peck as the flawed king whose desire for another man's wife leads to tragedy. Director Henry King takes a surprisingly mature approach to this morally complex tale. The film's strength lies in treating biblical characters as fully human, with Peck portraying David not just as a hero but as a man wrestling with temptation and guilt. Susan Hayward's Bathsheba transcends the typical temptress role, showing her as a woman caught in political and religious circumstances beyond her control. Shot in stunning technicolor, the film's production design recreates ancient Jerusalem with impressive detail. The confrontation between David and the prophet Nathan remains one of cinema's most powerful portrayals of divine judgment, with Peck's performance conveying both royal arrogance and profound remorse. Solomon and Sheba became infamous for its troubled production. Originally starring Tyrone Power as Solomon, the production was thrown into crisis when Power died of a heart attack during filming. Yul Brynner stepped in, requiring extensive reshoots. Despite these challenges, the finished film delivers spectacular pageantry. Gina Lollobrigida Queen of Sheba performs an infamous fertility dance that pushed the boundaries of what censors would allow in the 1950s. Director King Vidor orchestrates massive battle sequences involving hundreds of extras, creating a sense of scale that CGI still struggles to match. The film's lavish palace sets and costume design exemplify the no-expense-spared approach studios took with biblical epics during this era. While critically dismissed, its combination of sensuality, religion, and spectacle made it a commercial success. Barabbas takes a fascinating approach to biblical storytelling by following the man who was freed instead of Jesus. Anthony Quinn delivers one of his most powerful performances as the criminal who spends his life haunted by the man who died in his place. Director Richard Fleischer filmed the crucifixion scene during an actual solar eclipse, a remarkable technical achievement that gives the sequence an eerie, otherworldly quality. The darkness that falls over the land isn't a special effect, but a genuine astronomical event captured on film. The film follows Barabbas through years in the sulfur mines and as a gladiator, creating a gritty portrayal of the Roman Empire rarely seen in more sanitized biblical films. Its exploration of guilt, fate, and redemption makes it one of the most philosophically rich entries in the genre. As the sequel to The Robe, Demetrius and the Gladiators continues the story of early Christianity under Roman persecution. Victor Mature returns as Demetrius, whose faith is tested when he's forced to become a gladiator. The film's arena sequences set a new standard for Roman spectacle, with director Delmer Daves capturing the brutal entertainment of the empire with visceral impact. The gladiatorial combat remains impressive, even by today's standards. Susan Hayward plays the Empress Messalina, whose desire for Demetrius adds a layer of imperial intrigue. The film boldly explores a Christian losing and then regaining his faith, a surprisingly complex spiritual journey for a Hollywood epic. While less remembered than its predecessor, its combination of action and religious themes exemplifies why these biblical epics resonated with 1950s audiences. John Huston's ambitious adaptation of The Bible in the Beginning tackles the first 22 chapters of Genesis, with Huston himself portraying Noah. Producer Dino De Laurentiis spared no expense, constructing an enormous ark using ancient shipbuilding techniques. The gathering of the animals for the flood remains a masterpiece of animal wrangling and cinematography. The film features an all-star cast, including George C. Scott as Abraham and Ava Gardner as Sarah. Huston's direction brings a surprisingly intimate quality to these familiar stories, focusing on human emotions within the epic canvas. While the film's episodic structure sometimes works against it, individual sequences, particularly the Tower of Babel and Abraham's near sacrifice of Isaac, achieve a mythic quality rarely captured on film. Francis of Assisi brings the beloved saint's story to life with Bradford Dillman in the title role. Director Michael Curtiz, known for Casablanca, films on location in Assisi, capturing the medieval Italian landscapes that shaped Francis's spirituality. The film portrays Francis's transformation from wealthy merchant's son to devoted servant of God with sincere reverence. The famous scene where Francis preaches to the birds was achieved through meticulous animal training and patient cinematography. Dolores Hart, who plays Claire, would later leave Hollywood to become a nun herself, a remarkable case of life imitating art. The film's portrayal of religious devotion feels genuine, making it one of the more spiritually authentic entries in the biblical epic genre. Its lush cinematography and Curtiz's assured direction create a compelling portrait of one of Christianity's most beloved figures. Director Robert Aldrich tackles one of the Bible's most notorious stories in this Italian-American co-production of Sodom and Gomorrah. Stuart Granger stars as Lot, whose family becomes caught between the decadent cities of the plain and God's impending judgment. The film's depiction of sodomite depravity pushed boundaries for early 1960s cinema, with elaborate orgy scenes carefully choreographed to suggest debauchery while avoiding explicit content that would have earned censorship. The massive destruction sequence, where divine fire consumes the wicked cities, combines practical pyrotechnics and optical effects to spectacular result. Pier Angeli's performance as Lot's wife adds emotional depth to the biblical account, while Anuka May brings complexity to her role as the Queen of Sodom. While sometimes overlooked in discussions of biblical epics, its combination of morality, tale, and spectacle exemplifies why these films captivated audiences during Hollywood's golden age. The Silver Chalice marks Paul Newman's film debut as Basil, a silversmith commissioned to create a vessel to house the cup of the Last Supper. Newman later took out ads apologizing for his performance, but the film remains fascinating for its unique visual approach. Unlike most biblical epics of the era, director Victor Seville employed starkly minimalist, modernist set designs that seem decades ahead of their time. These abstract backgrounds create a dreamlike quality that distinguishes it from other movies of the period. Jack Palance delivers a mesmerizing performance as Simon the Magician, a charismatic charlatan claiming divine powers. The film's climax, where Simon attempts to fly over Rome, combines practical effects and painted backgrounds to create a memorable sequence of hubris and downfall.
He didn't fly.
While commercially unsuccessful, its visual boldness makes it worth rediscovering. These 10 biblical epics represent Hollywood at its most ambitious, combining star power, technical innovation, and timeless stories. Though the era of the big-budget biblical spectacular eventually faded, these films remain testaments to cinema's power to bring ancient texts to vivid life.